Welcome everyone to this week's Wednesday webinar. Today we are going to be talking about Power BI's creating basic visualization. So I know in the past we've done some webinars on Power BI, and now today we're going to be creating the actual charts, reports, taking a look at some of the options that are available to you. And just looking at this list, this is the types of visualizations that Power BI has. Now, from a lingo perspective, Power BI, everything that you put on your report is referred to as a visualization. So when we're saying visualizations, that's anything, whether it's a text box, a chart, a table, anything that you place on the report is a visualization. A lot of these are very familiar to you if you've worked with Excel, and a couple of other things to be aware of. Slicers, those are going to be like your filters if you want to filter by, like, say, a sales territory, or you want anything that you would select as a filter. And then we'll also take a look at these drill down visuals, is where you can have a hierarchy within your report, and you can start from maybe a top level like a division. You could click into like location, drill down even further into managers and such. So these are just different types of visualizations that Power BI has. The other things we're going to look at with creating visualizations is also working with them. So once you've created them, there's a few things that you can do to customize your report further. You can filter your visuals, you can format them. We're going to take a look at some of the analytics available to add that's more similar, like trending lines or constant lines, which we'll look at, and then drill throughs. So let's go ahead, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at how this works within Power BI. And today we are working on the desktop version, which is available to download for free. So let me go ahead. Now I've already connected to some data here, and one thing to note, I've already cleaned all my data, so that's something we're not going to go through here, but it's always something that I will put out there anytime you're working with Power BI, especially if you're connecting to software data such as GP or CRM or any other software. Raw tables come over with just a ton of columns and data on them, so I always recommend cleaning the data first. That's what's going to make this part so much easier for you. So let's go ahead and start creating some visuals on this report. The first thing I'm going to do is not with data, but I'm going to go ahead. I always like to add in a logo. So I just went to add image. I'm going to choose the logo I've saved. I do this with every report. I just think it makes it look a little more polished and professional. And then the next thing I always do is name a report. So I'm going to insert a text box. And for this one, we're going to do a customer balance report. I'm going to change the font size on this, and let's move it up here. Okay, so let's start taking a look at some of the visuals. All your different types of visualizations are available here on the right-hand side. If you hover over them, it will tell you the different types of visualizations that you have. So for the first one, let's go ahead and add a bar chart. And in this one, we're just going to select the visual, and then we have the box pop up here, and we can start pulling the fields that we want to look at. So everything that's available to create your visualizations is under the fields box here on the far right-hand side. You can expand any of the tables that you've connected to. You can also search for fields. Since we've cleaned up our data, we don't really need to do too much searching because it's not a lot to choose from here on the right-hand side. So for this one, I'm going to just take the different fields that I want, and I'm going to pull them onto the chart. So I want to look at customer balance, and let's say I want to look at it by customer class. And then I'm just going to change the sizing here so it's a little bit easier to read. But Power BI just starts to put the information into the chart. It's trying to kind of anticipate what you want to be looking at. If it ever did create the chart incorrectly, your chart information is right here under the visualization options. So you can see our axis is the customer class. and we have the value is the customer balance. So if something would happen where it had it backwards, you can always just drag and drop them to the other locations. But in this case, that's how we wanted it to work. So we've added a bar chart. Let's go ahead and add a map. Another thing that you can do within Power BI when you're creating a visualization is you can just start to drag the fields onto your report face. So let's say we want to look at the balance by city, or if you want to look by state, we have state here as well. So let's go ahead and pull state. And Power BI actually selected a map visual automatically. And the reason being is that this is a location data type. So we pulled state, and let's say we want to see customer balance by the state. And now you can see they look some bigger, some smaller dots now. And similar, your field information is here into visuals, and this time it's state is the location, and the size is the customer balance. Sometimes you just need tables, especially if you want to look at maybe like a top 10 list or things like that. So let's go ahead and add a table. This one right here, if we hover over it, is the table. And I'm going to pull some values over onto that. So I want to see the last statement date. And I want to see the customer. And I want to see the last statement amount. Now what we can see here is Power BI actually averaged the last statement amount. So we're seeing a lot of zeros. So under the tab here, we want to change that. We want to just see what was the last statement amount. So next to the value average of last statement, we're going to go ahead and click on this, and we don't want to summarize it. We just want to see the actual values. We still see a lot of zeros here, but as we scroll down now, we can see actual statement values. And we're going to filter this in a little bit, but we're going to just create all our visuals first, and then we'll start working with them. The next type of visual I want to create is called a card, and this is for when you want to just see a number or a piece of information kind of just right in the face. So this little icon here is the card, and I just want to see my overall, what is my current customer balance? So I'm going to pull customer balance here, and you can see it's just giving you a total number. 2.8 million is my current customer balance. So that's a benefit of cards is really when you have like executive or sales reports, or any type of report where a manager or an executive may want to see, okay, what's my overall number? What is the end result of this? That's where cards are really beneficial. So this is what I'm going to put on this page here. We're going to create a second page, which I've already got the page 2 here, but if you ever need to add, there's just click on the plus sign. You can add as many pages as you need, similar to an Excel workbook. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the next set of visualizations on this page 2. I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to add the logo. Again, I do this for every report. And we're going to name this one, we're going to talk about transactions specifically on this one. And I'm going to move that up here. Okay, so on this page, the first chart we're going to add is we're going to look at doing a donut chart. So let's go ahead and select that. And instead of looking at the customers table, this time we're going to pick this SOP table because we want to look at those individual sales transactions. So I want to look at the type and the document amount. And we can see now we've got the different types, whether they're orders, quotes, and such, by amount. We're going to go ahead and add a line chart. And really, the best way to add a visualization is just what works for you. You can see right now I'm selecting them from here. Sometimes if you want to do it quicker, you can start just pulling them on to the report like we did with the map one. And you're not locked into visualization type when you create it. You can change it at any point. So let's create this line one, and then I'll show you what I mean by that. So on this one, we're going to go ahead and pull the sales territory to be our axis, and we will pull document amount to be our value. So for this one, we have it as a line chart, but if you just start selecting other visualizations, it will just change to that, the best that it can. So you can see, we went through the different columns, bars. All of a sudden we want it to be a pie, donut, make it a table, anything that you really want. So it is very easy just to flip that. When you start working with visualizations, pick what you think, but don't spend the most of your time doing that because it is so easy to flip it. A lot of times you can pull data onto a report and then flip around, look around, see what makes the most sense for you, what looks the best, or what really stands out for you. So we've got that. Now we're going to create a couple different column charts. So with this, I'm just going to start pulling fields out. I'm going to say I want to look at the status and the type. And I want this to be, let's do a column chart. Okay, so I'm on the column chart. And you can see here, we still have, because when it pulled over, it defaulted to a different chart type. You can see we don't have anything in here because it's trying to show the status down on the axis, and then it has the type as the legend. So these up here, what we need to do is we need to pull one down to the value. So our type in this case is going to be the value, and it's defaulted to account, which is what we want. I want to see how many different transactions we have based on their status. But if it had not defaulted to count, if there's other options like we had averages and such, they are available just on this drop down arrow. And we're going to change, instead of it being axis, I want it to be on the legend. So when you put the information on the legend versus the axis, this has just one set, and then you have the different colors versus the multiple columns. Okay, let's go ahead and create another column chart. Now we're going to look at, I had mentioned those drill down visuals, and we're going to make a couple of those. So generally, when you select anything that has a date, it will automatically create a drill down. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to pull the document date over, and we're going to say we want to know the amount. So you can see here that it's defaulted to the different years, and we have everything way in the future because this is demo data. But when we click on this drill down arrow here, now if we click on a particular year, so 2027, I click on this year, and now it goes down by quarter. And then if you click on a particular quarter, it goes down by month. So that is where drill down can be beneficial. Over here under your fields, we can see it has year, quarter, month, day. Maybe you don't want to look at quarter. You can go ahead and take that off. This is super helpful when you want to have that overall picture, but the ability to look further into it. Okay, we had higher sales this year. Well, we're selling the most in April. That's good to know. And then you can even get down to like the day of month, so you can really track the trending. I've seen this done with like sales. I've also seen it done with HR and attrition. When are you losing your most employees? Things like that. Now, with a date one, you see that it brought that over automatically, but you can also create your own hierarchies to create these drill down type charts. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to pick a column chart again. And this time, we want to look at document amount. We still want that to be our value because that's what we're looking at, but we want to take and start with sales territory. So we want to look at it by territory first, but maybe then we want the ability to drill into it further. So we can take salesperson ID as this. next one we're going to look at, and we're going to just drag it right under sales territory here on the axis. And now we've created a hierarchy. So this is a drill down chart. And when we click the drill down button here, we could drill into those territories. We only have one salesperson per territory here on our data, but if you had multiples, or if you wanted to do something like I had mentioned earlier, division, location, manager, those type of hierarchies, you can create them yourself within the visualization. There's one other visualization type I want to create, and then we'll take a look at the ways that we can customize these visualizations a little. So we had mentioned earlier that there's slicers, and those are your filters. So it's this icon here with a little funnel. And let's say we want the ability to filter by salesperson. So what this does, just creates a list of all our salesperson IDs, and it gives you the ability to select one, and it filters the remainder of your visuals. So these slicers can be super helpful if you have a lot of different things you want people to be able to, filter the report down by. Another thing that you can do within slicers, we select this more options here, there is a search box. So you can put a search box in, and that allows your users to search. Now, we only have a few sales people here, so really probably wouldn't need a search box, but say you wanted to have a search by customer option or something like that, the search boxes like this can become super helpful so you don't have to scroll down through a whole list. Okay, so now we've created a few different visuals, a couple different pages, but I want to give some information about customizing and working with these visuals so you can create reports that work really well within your organization. So the first thing I want to talk about is filtering visualizations. We're not going to go too in depth on this. When you get to filtering your data, there's so many different levels you can filter at. We have these slicers as well, but sometimes you are going to want to, at an administrative level, filter a particular visual. So I had mentioned earlier about looking like at a top 10, and that's what we're going to do with this table here that we created. Whenever you're working with your visuals, you want to make sure to select the visual, and you'll see these brackets around it. And right here next to the visualization tab, we have our filters tab. And for this, we want to look at the top 10 statements by amount, because I want to know what customers have the highest amounts on their statements. It's easier to follow up with, and if I can collect on all of them, I'll be sitting pretty good. So here we see last statement amount. I'm going to click the drop down here, and you have different filtering options. Advanced filtering, that's where you can select, if it equals this or it equals this, things like that. Basic filtering, that gives you where you would just select from the list if you wanted to filter by certain values. And then top N is what we're looking for. So we're going to select top N, and we want to show, and you can select from top or bottom, but we want to show the top 10, and then you have to pick which value are you using. So in this case, we were looking at the customer balance. So I'm going to pull customer balance over to value, and I'm going to apply this filter. Oh, what did I do there? Sorry about this, guys. It just kind of blinked on me there. Okay, well, whenever it doesn't work like this, which it can happen sometimes, Power BI can be a little finicky. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to pull the last statement amount over again underneath here. And then I'm just going to do that again. Top 10, and I want to see by customer balance. Well, something has happened here. I apologize, you guys. Every time I did it before, it has worked. So So I may have to troubleshoot that a little bit. We'll come back to that, but we've got it all correct here. Okay, I apologize for that, guys. We will come back to that in a moment. I don't want to get stuck on filtering, so I want to show you a few more things here. So basic formatting is going to be the aesthetics of your graphs. So you can see some of the things Power BI has done automatically. It's put our fields that we've picked, so like customer balance by customer class, on the reports. And any formatting that you do is under this paint roller here. So you can see all the different options, and you can get really into formatting. You can format your X and Y axes. You can really get into this, but we're just going to kind of look at the overview of it. So with this, you can change your data colors. So you see this came into a teal color. We could change it to anything we really want. We're going to go ahead and change it to gray, keep it neutral. Data labels, if you turn those on, now we have data labels here for the amounts. The title, which we see it pulled the fields, you can rename it. You know, maybe we don't want it this by that. We're just going to say this is balance by class or whatever you would want it to be. Within a title, you can change the font colors. If you change the background of the title color, it gives you a nice line at the top. You can change the alignment of the title and the size, so you really can get into that. Another thing, you can turn on borders if you like to have, instead of your visualizations kind of just disappearing, you can have a border on there. So let's say we pick an overall aesthetic that we like, and this is something we like. You can also paint and copy your formatting over to your other visualizations, so you don't have to do it for everyone. So if we're going to select Format Painter, we're going to pull it over here, and it's just copied those things over. It did not change the title wording. It kept the wording that was automatically given to it by Power BI. So then for this one, you would need to go in there, go to the paint roller, and you could change your title information, but it does apply everything else as far as the formatting perspective. Another thing that we can look at, each visualization has a few things that are specific to it. When we look at this card here, one thing is it has this category. Customer balance is a category instead of a title. So if you turn that off, that would disappear, and that is just the field name. And you could add a title, or you could leave the category on. And another thing that's available is if you wanted to do a whole background versus just like the background for the title, if you select to turn the background on, you could choose a color, and that would choose the whole area of the visual. That whole background would be colored that way. So I know we talked about analytics a little bit earlier, and I know we're kind of getting close to our time here, so I want to make sure we get these. We're going to do the analytics on this line chart here. So we have the visualization selected, and your analytics are here at the magnifying glass icon. And in here you see you can add a min line, max, average, median, everything like that. But where I see this most often used is with a constant line. So maybe you have a certain goal or, you know, like a threshold that you want to stay within. We're going to go ahead and add a constant line to pull that out on the visualization instead of trying to have to figure out, okay, where are they at this point? Are they up? Are they down? So we're going to add a constant line. We're going to choose the value. For this one, we're going to say we want it at 75,000. We're going to change the color of the line. You know, we have the different styles that you can choose, and if you want it in front or behind. And so now we have this constant line in there, so it's easy to see which territories are above or below that line. I see that most often used when you have goals and such. At any time, if you have done something on your visualizations that you do not like, they all have this option to revert to default. If you select that, it's going to go back to whatever the default formatting for that was. So when we clicked add line, it was at 0. It, you know, defaulted to all of those things. To get rid of a constant line, if we just select the X, that will go away. But any of your other filtering, if you've changed it, so for example, if we change this color to something and then we revert to default, it's always going to go back to what the original formatting was. Now I want to talk about drill through here really quickly before we end today, and that is available here at the bottom of your visualizations. So what this is used for is if you want to drill further into your data. So for example, if you're on a report face and it has your AR, your AP data, all this different overall company view, but then you want to drill into, if you're looking at customer balances, okay, now I want the transactions that have created this customer balance. Or if you have like your overall accounts payable, you want to drill into and know where's your money going, you want to have a drill through section. And that's why I created a second page, because I want this transaction report to be that, that drill into page. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pull what field will drill through to this page. So we're going to say when someone wants to drill through the customer balance, they're going to come to this transaction. So what that does is on the first page here, so we've got these customer balances. If we right click on any of these fields now, so this is this particular class for USA, this top class, there's a drill through option now, and it takes us to that page 2. And then in here now, that filter is applied. So we were looking particularly at that customer class. So this is the transaction report that's all related to that customer class. This button serves as a back button. Now, because we are in the desktop version, it's not going to work as a back button right now, but it serves as that on the online version, which we can look at here in just a moment. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then anytime you finish creating a report, you publish it. If you're using Power BI Pro, you're going to publish it to the cloud. You can select My Workspace, and it's going to go ahead and publish to the online version of Power BI. Hopefully this will only take a moment here. The length of time for publishing or refreshing your data all depends on the amount of data you're pulling over, which is another good reason to clean your data. This was pretty clean, so let's go ahead and I'm going to take a look at my online Power BI here, and I'm going to pull up that report that we just created. Okay, there's our basic visuals demo. And we're going to do that drill through option. So from page 1 here, which looks just the same as it did, we're going to go ahead and drill through to page 2, and now we've got the transaction report. We've got all the filters applied, but now if you select this little back arrow, it will take you back to the originating page that you came from. So I know that was a really quick overview of using Power BI, creating visualizations. If you have any further questions or you want to look at things, you can always reach out to me, and I'll put my information up here in a moment. Another thing I want to let you guys all know about is we do have our premier educational event coming up in November. So if you guys want to check that out, register, take a look at the agenda or anything like that, we do have a link on our website to take a look at our GPUC 2019 event. And then if you guys have any further questions or you want to look at anything or you take a look at Power BI options, please feel free to reach out to me at any point in time. I thank you guys so much for attending today, and you guys have a great rest of your day.